This is the second tutorial, and it's taken me a while to pull this out, and I blame you, Jorge, because I simply can't blame myself. Oh, hey! Hi! It's me, Wilma Fingerdoo, and welcome to That's So Wilma. Speaking of sewing, you can't sew without some inspiration, and because we're ladies, we're in a sewing circle, I thought we'd have some tea. And by tea, I mean gin. I'm just saying. Ooh, let the stitching bitch begin. I'm just saying. All right. Now, last episode we talked about how to buy a machine. Well, that's all well and good now that you have the beast. What the hell are you supposed to do with it? Well, you have to thread it. If you don't thread the machine, it doesn't sew. It's just an expensive paperweight that puts holes in things. If you've ever threaded a sewing machine, then you're going to be fine on any others. Yes, there are some that have little nuances, little differences, but more or less they're all the same. So we're going to go through the differences, but I'm just basically going to start with my fabulous Kenmore. Now, I'm using a Kenmore 10. Now, this is what I love about the Kenmore 10. I told you that when you have your little fabulous little screwdriver, you can get into the machine. You can open some panels. This here is I'm going to call this the head panel. This is all the important things. And on the Kenmore 10, it just opens. It just opens. So now you can change a light bulb super easy. You can clean. If you get thread sometimes, and you'll understand this as you sew, you're going to get thread jammed all sorts of places in a sewing machine. You are going to become a little bit of a sewing machine repair expert in the history of your machine. So if you can get a machine that allows you access into it quicker, then you're going to have a quicker time fixing any problems that you create. Normally though, this panel just unscrews. There's usually one screw there, pops off. It's super easy, no big deal. Now, for this machine, the reason I use this machine is it has everything. On my Janome, it's missing one of these. These are the spool holders. The spool holders hold the spools of thread. Simple, well named. I'm glad they weren't called star catchers because they suck at that. My machine's missing one, but then I don't use these a lot anyway, and I'll show you why in a bit. But you want to have your two threads ready to go. And the reason for that is so you can wind bobbins as you're sewing. Now, most people will just wind a bobbin to start, and I'm going to show you that because that's the first step of sewing on a machine. You need to wind your bobbin. So here I am. I'm taking out our built-in little sewing kit right here, and as you can see, oh look, a naked bobbin, completely threadless. So if you look on the top right hand side of your machine, you'll see there's a bunch of things. These two sticky uppy things, we're ignoring those for now, I'll just put them down. And then there's this little thing. It looks very suspect. What does it do? What's it for? Do I need to be associated with this? Yes, you do. This is the bobbin winder. It's very important. If you can't wind your bobbin, you're going to have a lot of trouble sewing because you want the bobbin wound with a consistent tension. That's the secret to sewing. It's all about the tension. So I'm going to show you how this is done. I'm raising one of the little bobbin holders. In fact, I'm going to use the blue thread so you can see it. It's better. So you take your thread and you just put it on there, see? Done. You can, this is going to be a debate like with toilet paper. Do I want the thread coming around the back, around the front? It's up to you, it doesn't matter. You're not going to ruin anything. The ghost of Givenchy isn't going to come to your house and slap your face. I might, but that won't happen. So, instead of, you're going to think, oh, I'm just going to go right to this little doohickey that I wind the bobbin on. No, that's not it. You want to go all the way over to this side of the machine. There's this little sticky, now this thing is in a bunch of places on a bunch of machines. On my Janome, it's here. On this thing, it's here. It does the same thing, and you'll always recognize it. It's never disguised as like a ladybug. It's always whatever this thing is. That's the tension for the bobbin winding. So what you're going to do is you're going to come at that, regardless of where it is, you want to come at it from the front, and you want your thread to go in it, and then come back out. So it's going into the front to the left, back around the back to the right, so it crosses over. It's almost doing a loop inside this little tension thing. Now, as you can see, I have no tension on the thread here, but this is tense. That's what you want. You want the thread to feed through evenly. Now for the bobbin. The bobbin, this is a bobbin. Now whether you have a plastic one, so you can see right through it, or it's metal with all those holes, even on a plastic one, when you look up close, there's a hole in it. this is what you need. Whether you're using, I like to use the metal ones, it's just preference. It's nothing's going to hurt or help. But let me just start by saying, you also want to make sure your thread's trimmed. You don't want raggedy thread. You'll never get it through these tiny little holes. Shut your face. So I just snip it there. And then I take my bobbin, and I literally just want that thread to go up through one of these holes. Super easy. There's lots of them. This is harder to do on the plastic one because there's only one hole. You only have one place to put it, and it can be quite troublesome. So then I've got the thread going through the top level of the bobbin. It's got one wheel on the bottom, one wheel on the top that's going through the spoke side, up through the hole side top, just like that. And you stick it on here. We're not done, but almost. Now, there's another thing here on the bobbin winder. It's like a little plastic disc. It's raised. This is the guide so that your bobbin doesn't overwind and then just spew thread everywhere, because trust me, that can happen. It happens on my Janome because I've lost that part too. So I'm down one of these on my Janome, I'm down the guide. I can get this replaced. In fact, I have, and I just need to have a screw to put it back in. But either way, the thing about this guide is maybe you're not sewing a full bobbin. If you're not sewing a full bobbin, you don't need a full bobbin of thread, and especially if it's a weird thread, you only have so much of it. So what you can do is you can loosen this guide, and as you see, it's elliptical. The screw is off center. So if you push it to one side, there's a lot of plastic to the left of the screw, and when you tighten that, to activate the bobbin winding, you push the bobbin over. Now you can see, I'm only gonna get like maybe 30 or 40 spins on the bobbin before this stops, because it's quite close to the center post. And what happens is, as the bobbin fills, this post forces the bobbin to push back, and it disengages. So it's a huge help. This is the best thing for when you're winding a bobbin while you're sewing. A lot of people will wind a bobbin fully. I'm sewing black today, I'm winding a black bobbin, maybe I'll wind 2 in a go. I don't worry about that. I usually will wind 1, so I have 1 to go, and then the next one I'll put on to wind while I'm sewing. I don't have to watch it. So I've pushed the guide out so it winds the bobbin to the maximum. I'm holding my thread. I push the bobbin over. That engages it. This inside, there's a wheel here. This is what the motor comes off of, this deal right here. You're pushing this mechanism up against that wheel and it's turning it. That's how it's working. And if you're sewing, then that's all you need to do. You hold this up here, you hit your presser foot, and you want, oh, have I got the right presser foot? Oh, I have to turn my sewing machine on. I just, such an expert. Here's my sewing machine. On, okay, on. Some machines work whether they're on or not. I like that this one turns off when you turn it off. For instance, like if I turn off my Janome, the light off, the sewing machine will still work. So I like that this one didn't. It's just a safety precaution. If you have cats or children or nosy people, what to say. So and then as you can see, it's sewing and winding. Now I don't want to do this too much because I have no fabric going on. It's always a good thing if you're not actually sewing to not push your machine to do anything it shouldn't. And having a needle going in and out without thread, it's not going to hurt anything, but I just prefer to minimize that kind of action. There, I've said it. So how do you just wind the bobbin, you say? Oh, well, I'm so glad you asked. You just take this disc part. It has 2 parts, as you can see. There's the part coming out, and then inside that, this one has a grip around it, which makes you think, oh, I can turn that, and you'd be right. So what you do is you hold the one disc, and you turn the other until it clicks. It's engaged, it's unengaged. So now, I'm just gonna wind the bobbin. And as you can see, I'm holding the thread, and that's it. The needle's not going up and down. Now that the bobbin's wound, I can cut this, just to get it out of the way so we don't have any problems. And, there we go. And because I've got this gauge up, this will stop automatically right before it goes beyond full. Now the nice thing about this is you've got, the tension is good. You can see the thread coming off. This tension here, it's not buckling or snapping. Now, for some of you, you might have, as you can see, my bobbin was spinning. You can just hold that, you can just put your finger up against it. Sometimes, depending on the bobbin will spin and rise off the thread post. That's fine too. That's a normal thing that'll happen. Just keep your hand on it. And here we go. There. as you can see, the motor's still moving, but the bobbin has stopped. It's being pushed away, it's getting less contact with the motor, and we're done. That's a full bobbin. It's not even or anything, but that's fine. As you can see, the thread, though, is just super, super snug. It's coming off really, really easy, and that's what you want. So, there's 50% of the threading done. Well, no, that's a quarter of the threading done. We've wound a bobbin. Tick. Next thing we have to do is put the bobbin in the machine, because it's no good out here. We might see stuff and everything, but if it's going to work, we got to send it into the mines. And where does it go, you say? Well, it's under where the needle goes in. If the needle goes in, the bobbin's going to be below that. That's just the nature of sewing. So, as we all know, our sewing machines have these lovely little panels that we can pull out. And once you've pulled that out, there's this panel here. This is where the bobbin goes. This is the bobbin casing. The bobbin casing comes out like this. It's got this lovely little handle. Once you engage this handle, the bobbin won't come out. You just stick the bobbin in, hold it, and now the bobbin will stay there. So this makes it easy to put it in. If I hold the bobbin, it just comes out. So this little handle is a godsend if you're thick-fingered like I am. So you take your bobbin casing. It's facing me so I can see the inside of it, and I put the bobbin in with the thread running to the right. I take that thread and you just go around, just pull it around the side of the bobbin casing until it catches. There's a groove there, it'll catch. Just be patient with yourself, there it is. And then you want to pull the thread, continuing it through that groove. It'll go under this little plate. There's a little plate here. And then it'll just go, oh, did you hear that little click? Now that thread's caught here. What's the point of that? Tension. This keeps the thread coming out of the bobbin at a set tension so that it makes a proper stitch. If you need to adjust that tension, maybe it's too loose, maybe it's too tight, again, our little sewing machine out of our built-in kit, and there's the screw right there. You just tighten it or loosen it as you see fit. You shouldn't have to touch this. This should be fine. I've never adjusted the tension on a bobbin casing because it's just not necessary. So then I grab the little thing so that the bobbin stays in, stick it back in here, push until you hear the click. There you go. And as you can see, there's a place for it to go. There's a little notch. You can't put this in wrong. If you're forcing it or you don't hear a click, it's not in, or you're doing it wrong, and stop. I always like to tilt the machine so I can see what I'm looking at, because I'm very tall. So there it is. There, 50% done on the threading of the machine. I'm so excited. Now, I hate it. I hate threading the machine because I have to put on the glasses. I'm at that age now where I can't see anything in front of my face. So, here's what you do. If you're going to, I'm going to just show you. If you're going to wind a bobbin while you're sewing, so we've wound the bobbin without. I'm just going to take this bobbin, this thread, it's coming still through that little thing on a turn. Yep, we're very happy with what we're seeing. Yep. Take the thread, stick it through one of the holes in the top of the bobbin, pull it through. I'm just going to disengage the motor and engage the bobbin and just wind it a few times to make sure that it's caught, and clip that thread. And now I'm going to engage the motor again. Simple. Off, on. So now I'm going to pull up the second bobbin thread, thread holder, taking another color. This one's tan, so you can see. Maybe I'll do white, because I think the fabric I have is tannish. So here's white. So I'm putting that one on. Now I'm going to thread my machine. The first thing I'm going to do is ignore this thread and what's going on here, even though it's crossing over. I'm taking the main thread, which is the white thread, straight across to the left side of the machine. You'll see this little metal guide. It's just like a hook. You want the thread to go under that, and then look, oh look, right here on the machine, arrows, so you know what you're doing. This is the same on every machine. There is no sewing machine in the free world that I've seen where you don't come across, grab this hook, and then do the next two steps that I'm going to do. It is the same on every machine. The first step is, after you've gone through that hook, you're going to come down through the tension of the machine. Now, if your presser foot is up like mine is, and it should be while you're threading, this will just go in easy. It's just, you just want to make sure it gets in there. You're going to, down to the bottom, you'll see at the bottom of this plastic guide where this groove is, first of all, we're going to go past a dial. On this dial are numbers. These numbers are the tension. We're going to play with those in a minute. Right now, it's at 5, it's fine. But I'm also holding this so I'm not pulling too much thread out. I don't need too much thread, but just hold the spool there. So I'm bringing it down. At the bottom of this plastic groove, there's another arrow that's in a U-turn, so it means just go back up. So I go back up, continuing through this plastic groove, up to the top. Now, nothing's happening up here. That's because I need to advance the machine just a bit. And as I advance the machine, I'm turning the wheel toward me. That advances the machine. You see, rising from the depth like Loch Ness, this other metal hooky guide thing. This is the thread feeder. This is what helps pull the thread off the spool through the tension and feed the needle without it causing too much tension and possibly breaking the thread, because that can happen a lot. So you've got to bring the thread up through the U-turn, up to this part. Pull it over to the left behind this hook, and then pull it back towards you. The thread's now in this hook. It will now be fed to the needle. So we continue back from where we came, down the groove, and just to the left of the machine, to the left of the needle, there's a guide. Actually, they're on either side. It depends if you're using 2 threads or not. I don't want to get into that because that's advanced sewing. But on the left side of the needle, there's a little metal guide again. You're going to grab your thread and get it to go around that. It's very easy. You can't screw it up. You just bring your needle over to the left as much as you can, down, and then it's there, right there. This is just guiding the thread to the needle, and then you stick the thread through the needle. This is always hard for me. I'm just going to get my fingers wet and get the tip of my thread wet so I can stick it through this needle. This was so much easier when I was young and didn't care. Now that I care, I can't see anything. So there, it's threaded. Now, the point of this next thing I'm going to tell you is this is a part of the needles. Needles come in these lovely little envelopes. They can be $5 for maybe, I think, 6 or 7. I don't think it's as many as 10. But these are Kenmore needles in here. It's a little envelope. You pull the, this has been sealed somehow. You pull the thing out. There's a little tin foil inside. You open up the tin foil like a piece of gum. And there's usually, this one came with the machine. So as you can see, I'll just hold this up for you. There are 5 needles, and they all have a different color on them, and that just means they're different thicknesses. Needles go from a size 8 up to a size 16. 16 is great for denim, things like a 6, an 8, I think 4 even, silk, finer fabrics. So these are the needles that came with this machine. You always get a poo-poo platter of needles. Now, the one thing about a Kenmore needle is that one side is flat. This is true with Janome too, because Janome makes Kenmore. But all machines, some machines, I'm not sure it's Brother or Husqvarna, but some of them are round. They're completely round. And that can be troublesome to put them in the machine because you need the thread guide, which is, there's a groove. If you just run your thumb over the needle, you'll find one side has a groove on it. That's to guide the thread into the needle. It minimizes friction so the thread doesn't shred or split or break altogether. But this is a tip from me to you. If you don't have the original machine guide on how to put the needle in, and your needle isn't flat-sided, because it's flat-sided, there's only one way to put it into this Kenmore. This needle only goes in this machine one way. I can't screw it up. But here's the way to know. Find the groove on the needle. If you've got a round needle and you don't know, find the groove. That's the groove that guides the thread down. You want that facing in the same direction as the bobbin casing. So as you can see in this case, the bobbin is facing me. So that groove should face me. Sometimes the bobbin goes in on the side. If that's the case, the groove should be on that side, the side the bobbin comes in. It's just to help guide that thread to the best place possible to grab that bottom thread and make a stitch. That's it. So once you figure out where your groove is and you get it in the right place and you've got your needle tightened and it's all good, then you've threaded the needle. Then you just advance again with your motor. This is the motor right here. You advance it towards you. It's going to go down, and you can see the bobbin casing moving. If there's any problems, now's the time you're going to see them, because maybe your needle is bent and you didn't notice it's catching the plate on the bottom, or maybe the thread. Maybe you put in the wrong needle and it's not catching the thread from the bobbin. These are all things that are easily fixed by just double checking you've got the right equipment. So I just advance the thread until it goes around that bobbin casing, and then it catches, and then you'll see this loop comes up. Just pull I'm pulling the white thread because that's my top thread. Just pull it, and it brings the blue thread, which is my bobbin thread, up from underneath. And there you have it. That's it. This machine is ready to go. Now, here's the thing. All machines aren't created equal. Some machines have the bobbin case on the side. Some machines don't have a bobbin case at all. If you remember from my first tutorial, we had this beautiful, the Kenmore 16. Oh, so this one, again, very similar. Now, it is missing one of these, but again, these are super easy to replace. You can do that anytime. I don't worry about the second one or even either of them, because I like to use cones of thread. These are very big. You can't put these on here. They fall off. They don't turn. They create too much tension. I take a wire coat hanger. No wire hangers! And if you turn it pull it in half and put that on the table, the top part of the sewing of the hanger is usually at the right height of the sewing machine. So once I turn it sideways, I then turn the foot up to create a spot for the cone to go on, and then I'm such a nerd. And then this comes up here at thread height, and now I can sew. If I'm sewing on the machine, I bring this around the spool post once. I go fully around it and then throw it in the machine, just to add some extra tension, just if it needs it. But then this still allows me, I don't even need to use this post. I can use this here and still put a post on here to wind a bobbin. So this is just a convenient way to take advantage of a cheaper thread source, because those little bobbins can be like $7 or $10 if they're thick enough. A cone like that, $5. On this machine, as I said, it has the top feed for the bobbin. It's, again, you recognize it. You see it on all the machines. But this one is interesting. It doesn't have a guide in front here for the thread to come through. This guide is in the back, and it is, again, as I said, they all go the same way, just some get there a little differently. So on this one, you're going to come through the back part. You probably want to give it a good pull just to make sure it gets caught in there. And then down the front, up, around this little thing that bounces up and down. This one's thread guide, as you can see, is a little higher. It's all right. And then they got a second thread guide right there, and then you put it through the needle, and you're done. Bob's your uncle. But once you've wound the bobbin on this is a different application of the bobbin. It's right there. We see it. It's right here. It's as clear as the nose on my face. As you can see, the bobbin goes straight in there. There's no bobbin case to put it in. It just goes straight into the bobbin housing. And let me show you how that works. So what you want to do is you want to have your bobbin running counterclockwise. This one, you want the bobbin to go from left to right in the front and right to left in the back. And so that way it's coming towards you around the post. Then you stick this in to the bobbin, and then you catch it in that groove. It's very simple. You just catch it in there and then pull it across the bobbin, and you see, even as I pull it, it's in there. And then you thread your machine. Let me get my... Now this thread is a little harder for me to see because it's darker. But then, if you need to get extra lights into your workspace, magnifying glasses and tweezers are no shame. If you need to get a magnifying glass or a pair of tweezers to help you thread a machine, do it. Some machines are awkward to thread, I'm just gonna say. So here's this one. We're going down We're grabbing the thread and we pull it back up. When you're advancing the presser foot and the needle to go down to catch the thread, don't hold the needle's thread too tightly. If you create too much tension, it won't actually grab that, which is why we talk about tension so much. If you have too little, it won't work, and if you have too much, it won't work. So, what do you mean by that, you ask? Well, let me show you. I'm going to go back over to this machine because it's plugged in. This is our Kenmore 10. Now, I've got a white thread for the bobbin, for the blue thread for the bobbin and white thread for on top. This is just to help us see how the machine is doing. I'm just going to cut a little bit of fabric to, see, I should really lay this out on the table, but I'm trying to show you everything. All right, so we're going to take a little bit of fabric. I'm just going to fold it over so we can see it. I'm going to put it in the machine. All right. Now then, I want the stitch length wider. I'm going to put it up to a 3. 3 is a good standard stitch. If you're stitching any machine, making any garment, 3 is good. Anything higher than that, the threads are going to be a little apart. So the stitches are going to be a little wider, and it could gape, or depending on what fabric you're using, it could be trouble. 3 is good. Anything finer than that, you're usually doing it for buttonholes or stuff. Anything longer than that, you're usually using it for gathering. Here we go. So 3, yeah. So this is just a good standard stitch. And while that's happening, the bobbin is winding. It's going at a fair clip, not too fast. But as you can see, I don't have to pay attention to it. I can focus on what I'm doing here. And when it fills, it will literally push itself off the motor and stop. And we're done. So let's look at this. Now, as you can see from the stitches, this is excellent. There is no, if this were wrong, I'm going to show you what it looks like wrong. We started on 5, now I'm going down to 1, and I'm going to stitch this one. This is the tension on 1. And there, you can see at the back, number 1 means the least amount of tension up top, which means the bobbin thread has the most tension, and now you can see these white loops. So if that's the case, if your under thread, the bottom, the underside of your work as you're sewing, is doing that, then the tension needs to be tighter in the thread tension. And all I have to do is look at it and go up. Now you'll see 4, 5, and 6 are in squares. That's the sweet spot on the machine. This is where you kind of want to be. I usually aim for 5, between 4 and 5, with mostly going to 5. That seems to be the best for me on most machines. I've never ever worked one different. But maybe somehow or another your bobbin tension is too tight. Well, then you have to raise the tension on your machine to bring it up so that it doesn't bunch like this on the bottom. But that's it. This is how you thread a machine. Our next tutorial is going to be on the different presser foots. And because of that, I'm also going to be talking to you about putting in buttonholes and zippers. Shut your face. Seriously. Until next time, keep sewing and miss me. I don't know. Makes it classy when it's in